Omar Brownson. I am the co-host of the Gratitude Blooming podcast with Belinda Liu. Before I introduce the other people who are with us this evening, I appreciate, hopefully, you enjoyed a moment of silence. And we're now going to move to taste. So you have hopefully either a hot tea or a cold iced tea. And we're just going to take a few moments to taste and smell. And so just as the process of feeling the cup in your hand, the temperature, is it warm, is it cold? Taking a moment to just feel it in your hands. And then smell it. Just taking time to appreciate the aroma. When you're ready, take a sip. Feel it on your tongue, your throat. In our go, 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 me kind of world, we thought it would be nice to just pause. This is our third empathy and democracy event. Each one has been very different. We've had taiko drummers, we've had guest speakers, and in each one what we're really trying to do is create space to shift our perspectives. And you might even wonder, like, what does empathy and democracy have to do with this? And for us, I think democracy in some ways moves at the speed of empathy. And empathy in some ways moves at the speed of our stillness. Can we pause to create a little bit of room for compassion? And when we pause to create a little room for compassion, how does that help us relate to ourselves and to each other? And so when we thought about this third event and this idea of holding space for the spaceholders, it was really this sort of invitation to become more aware of what are all the spaces that you're holding. Maybe you're a parent holding space for a child. Maybe you're a child holding space for a parent. Maybe you're a facilitator or a coach, a teacher, a supervisor, or maybe you're just holding space for yourself. Just taking a little bit of time to give yourself some room and grace. And so this evening is really for you. This is our invitation to create a little space for you in whatever ways that are healthy or helpful for you. And our hope is that even in this one little moment that we have together, where we build our emotional muscle memory of empathy, that when we leave this space and we go to wherever we're going, maybe we're able to give a little bit more compassion, a little bit more grace for the people in our lives, and who knows how that might trickle out. So first and foremost, I want to thank Belinda, who is my co-host for the Gratitude Blooming podcast, and she invited me almost 3 years ago to begin collaborating with her, and we've now probably held over 100 different gratitude circles, from in-person to online, hundreds, if not thousands of people at this point. We've just released, I think, like our 110th episode of the Gratitude Blooming podcast. And really, the inquiry that we've been holding is like, how do we help show people there's another way? There's another way of living. And it doesn't have to be that go, 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 me kind of world. And how do we sort of pause and create space? And nature and art and gratitude have been those tools that really help us create a little bit of sanctuary in each and every moment and each and every day. And it's those small little steps that we have found our lives have shifted fundamentally. And we had Jim Herr, who is the director of, I'm not going to say the full name, the National Center for the Preservation of Democracy, as a guest on our podcast. And just the invitation to pause and to reflect in very different ways with flowers and plants and these sort of themes that you will find each and every one of you received the healing card deck tonight as a gift. He's like, we should have this conversation in person here. And I think, Jim, just as you introduce the center and us this evening, there's a reason why the Japanese American National Museum is holding space for democracy. Because there was a moment in our history where we lacked some deep empathy, some deep understanding of human dignity. And so this sort of reminder is not just a theoretical one, it's a lived one. And so we appreciate Jim for inviting us to create these moments for us to reflect at a very human level how we make decisions together at a collective one.
Thank you, Omar. And I think you wanted me to share a little bit about the history of this space and of JANM. And JANM doesn't, as Omar alluded to, doesn't exist here simply because there was space for a museum. There's actually a historical context to this place, to this space. And if you notice when you walked in, we have the main sort of what we call the pavilion building across the way, which is where our JANM collection is. Our Democracy Plaza actually used to be a continuation of Central Avenue that went straight through. And then if you look towards this side of the plaza, you'll see the Democracy Center with sort of the very glass and steel and very modern facade. And you'll see an older building, which we call the historic building, to the left. What you may realize is that actually the inside of the two buildings is interconnected. So we're actually sitting right now in the historic building. And the historic building is, the centerpiece of it is a Buddhist temple, which was the first Buddhist temple in Los Angeles. And it was built in 1925. And it became a hub for the Japanese American community, not only in Little Tokyo, but throughout Los Angeles. But sadly, because it was that center of the community, it is where in 1942, Japanese Americans living in Los Angeles were ordered to report, some 37,000 of them, to come here with just whatever they could carry. They were put on buses, taken to Santa Anita Racetrack. I didn't know it had been here that long, but Santa Anita Racetrack has been here for a long time. They were housed in horse stalls until they could be processed and put on trains to one of 75 American concentration camps around the country. So this is very sort of a place that has a lot of sadness, a lot of heavy history. It is a place that we often think of democracy as having failed its people. But it's also a place of resiliency, the resiliency of the Japanese American people. A place that has come to be a place for celebration, for joy, for community, and not just for Japanese Americans, but for anyone that wants to come here. And the Democracy Center opens that even more. And so this is the types of conversations that we want to have. It is a difficult time for our democracy right now. And in searching for many answers, there's a lot of people looking into different things, but I think for our institution, as a arts and culture institution, we want to center the arts in what we do and have conversations that other people aren't having. And this is one of them. And I think it is an important conversation to have. How do we begin to demonstrate empathy when it is very difficult at times to do that? And I think that has been for me sort of this reoccurring theme from the very first, even before the first podcast that we did, but certainly since the first podcast. And it's not that we have or I have the answers, but hopefully this is a way we can find some answers. And we're so grateful to our friends at Gratitude Blooming for their creativity, for their talents, for their willingness to have these conversations and work with us. And we're so grateful that all of you have joined us here today to be part of this conversation, and hopefully future ones as well.
Thank you. And we're also joined this evening by two amazing facilitators, Angela O and Alex Dorsey. They will be facilitating sort of the middle part of this evening. Each one is a master facilitator, and so to kind of get two in one evening is a special treat. And then I'm going to pass it off to my co-host, Belinda.
Thank you. I'm curious how many people have been here for our live podcast event before. How many old timers do we have here in this space? Oh, thank you all so much for coming back, and warm welcome to those of you that are here for the first time. We had such a great time getting the space ready for you. My husband and I literally drove from Mount Shasta, California, which is the true Northern California. And we brought cedar from our land in Mount Shasta for you to really receive from. Cedar on our land represents the guardian, the protection tree. So I hope that you can receive the cedar at the end before you go back home, and you're welcome to take a piece of Shasta with you as part of this experience. And Omar really kind of set the intention for this third event to be a different kind of space. So for me, I'm noticing in my body, whoa, it's a little different to go from being on a stage in the other room to now a circle of us kind of sitting around a table. And so I just want to acknowledge that feeling of how does it feel to be sitting across the table from new and familiar faces, and just that feeling of the circle. This is like a very ancient symbol of unity and wholeness. And in my culture, with the Lunar New Year that's happening this weekend, circles represent wholeness. And so you'll see a lot of circular things on the table, and even in what we're going to enjoy for this experience. And so I wanted to start our journey together just with this feeling of what does it mean to hold space? We know what coaching is like, or facilitation, those are very specific words that we use a lot in our modern day life. But space holding is kind of a new idea, and even with all of us as we were getting ready for this circle today, we were like, what does that word actually mean? And so I'm actually going to share what it feels like to me, and I invite you to join me in that feeling. So to start, I want you to feel which hand, left or right, is your active giving hand. So we're going to do that together. So take out that hand that is doing a lot of things for you. It's doing a lot for other people. And I really want you to take a moment, just like you were sipping that tea just now and smelling that tea. I want you to really feel the energy of that hand is holding. So just imagine and feel, what are all the things in your life, all the people in your life that you are holding? Who is depending on you in your life? And just imagine that being in the palm of your hand right now. And you can even think that to yourself. What are those things that you hold literally every single day of your life? Who are the people that you hold? And just notice how that hand feels as you're connecting in. And just giving yourself some gratitude. Wow, you are doing so much to hold this space for so many. And now I invite you to take your other hand and hold the hand that is giving so much. And just notice how that feels now to have something else supporting you as you're holding all of the things that, and the people and the community that depend on you in your day-to-day life. And just noticing, how does that feel now to have an extra support there for you? Just even this small act of how we can hold space for ourselves can create such a big ripple effect for everything else in our lives. And so just inviting you all to just be with this metaphor of holding space, just feeling yourself releasing a little bit on that dominant hand to let the other hand hold and support you. And this is really the intention for this time, is how can we release some of that heaviness that is hard about being a space holder for others. And so I invite you to kind of relax your hand now. After a while, it's feeling a little heavy. And we're gonna actually just introduce ourselves in the form of, what are we most wanting to receive right now as people that give so much in our lives? And you're welcome to use the menu here to write notes if you'd like, or also pull from the Garden of Healing, which is our theme for today, is, what healing can we receive as people that do so much for others in our lives? And you can also pick a card from here and use it as a prompt or word as we just invite the question, what is it that you need to receive right now for your own care and well-being? Just taking a moment to find that word, either from the note cards or from your own imagination.
And we're just going to go around in a circle. We have mics, I think, hopefully strategically placed around us. And so I'll just go as modeling this. So again, my name is Omar Brownson, co-host of the Gratitude Blooming podcast. And I did this on a random basis. So I like to just shuffle the deck and then see what comes up. So the card that I received that I need to receive right now is card number 24, the Peony Healing. Taking the time to heal yourself is an expression of gratitude for this one wild and precious life you've been given. How can you support your own healing? And so I think part of the healing process is really giving myself time. Thank you. That way.
I'm Belinda, and I actually picked the card that makes me the most nervous, which is the card Sorrow. And it says, sorrow can come from the courage to love. Notice the bravery behind any sorrow you notice or feel. And I'm going to lean into that word love. I feel like I could use more love for myself right now.
Hi, everyone. This is Angela. I pulled one of my favorite flowers, the gardenia, gentleness. Being kind to yourself and others can be a way of showing gratitude. What would it look like to live with more gentleness? Something that I've been thinking about a lot in today's world in connection with democracy.
And I'm Alex, and I'm laughing because I also picked 31, gardenia, gentleness. And Angela just read it. But what stands out for me in the description is being kind to yourself and others. And just exploring how many different ways can I show myself and others kindness.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bethany, and I was most, the card that most spoke to me was number 15, the Azalea Hope. Take a moment to remember a time when you were filled with hope. What do you need to feel like that now? I feel like I start most conversations with how jaded I am, and I don't want to be that. I want, to have hope. So that's the one that spoke to me the most.
Hi everyone, my name is Sim. The card I got was patience. Some of the most important lessons in life require time and space to grow. What is your relationship with time? How can time be your teacher? I feel like as I'm getting older, like patience is something that keeps coming out for me because I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of pressure to grow up right now in the society very quickly. And sometimes I feel like I just need more time to figure things out.
Hi everyone, my name is Shekinah. I chose number 4, wholeness. Wholeness requires integrating different, sometimes contradictory sides of ourselves. What does wholeness feel like to you? I am in a point of my life where a lot of things are changing. The area that I'm in, the people that I'm surrounded by, and even the ways that I just think and view the world. And a lot of times I'm simultaneously grieving, a past version of myself while also looking to this new version of myself. That's exciting too.
Hello, I'm Cindy, and I didn't even need to shuffle the cards because right away the first card is forgiveness. Forgiveness for myself. The circular thinking that I'm not good enough is constant, so I'd like to leave this space with a little bit of forgiveness for myself.
Hi everyone, my name is Christy, and the card that resonated with me was also forgiveness. I am on a path of healing, and I realized lately that when I learn to let go and forgive, it's also a pathway for me to also heal. So yes, forgiveness.
Hi everyone, my name is Brittany. The card I picked was healing, and really coming into this just wanting time and space to be with others who are spaceholders and that collective energy and what that might look like and mean for me. But healing is something that I am seeking right now in my life.
Hi, my name is Kaylee, and the card that stood out to me was Beautiful Sadness, which feels sometimes contradictory, but the line that really caught my attention was trust that beautiful new possibilities will be born. I feel like I'm just longing for new possibilities, beautiful new things in my life.
Hi everyone, I'm Julie and I picked wholeness. The thing that stood out to me was contradictory sides of ourselves, which can feel uncomfortable, or I can choose to say it's wholeness.
I also chose patience. Some of the most important lessons in life require time and space to grow. I think patience has been something that I've sort of struggled with throughout a busy career. I'm now able to spend some more time doing things a little more deliberately, and I think that's healthy. I also think that patience is helpful to think about in terms of our theme of democracy and empathy, because sometimes the headline of the day can be alarming, but if you look to things that might be going in a better direction a little more slowly, I think patience helps us to be able to see those things.
Hi, I'm Lynn, and I picked hope, partly because 2 weeks ago I was at an event, actually at JANM here for a human rights organization that I'm on the board on, and there was so much hope in that room. But then you go back into kind of your real life and you lose some of it just because you start seeing the things that are going on in the world. So being back in this space gives me more hope, and to remind me of that there are some things that myself and others and many and everybody are doing that is good in the world, and that there's hope. So thank you for letting me be here.
Hi, my name is Kim, and I actually picked wholeness too. I recently kind of pulled back from everything because my energy and everything I was doing was going in a million different directions, and I felt really fractured, and so I decided to just pull back to see if I could find that wholeness.
Hi, I'm Alex, and I'm going to take Belinda up on her challenge for us to be use our imagination. I created my own card, and my card is I picked hot lava, and I picked hot lava because I've been feeling like an unmeltable icicle, which is frozen in place. And I picked hot lava because I'm hoping to enter into a season of thawfulness. I want to thaw, but I'm almost there, but not yet. I'm happy to be here.
Hi, I'm Angela. I just picked healing. It is a very personal journey for me. So I tend to be an overfunctioner and pour way more energy into stuff, even if it's broken, thinking that, it's an ego thing too, like I can fix it. So this is listening to my body and my mind and not suppressing or moving past my feelings too fast, and making sure that I'm processing and taking care of my emotions and not pretending that they aren't there or trying to make things go right all on my own. And part of the healing is sometimes just letting things be and having patience and accepting where things are at, trusting the outcome, and if there is any sort of functioning, doing that in the spirit of making sure I'm taking care of myself and those things that matter the most, and just preserving and not burning myself out.
Hi, everybody. I'm Karen, and I followed Omar's spirit and just, closed my eyes and pulled a card. And it's funny because, how on Saturday, I don't know if you all do this, but I was paying bill, I was doing all my errands and stuff I needed to do after a full week of working. And I had a thought. I was like, oh, it would be so good tomorrow. I've got this full day ahead of me to get a mani-pedi. But did I make an appointment? No. So my card is actually self-care. So, and I love it because it's, the question, we all need to ask this question: what can you do today and every day to nurture love for yourself? So I'm going to make that a habit.
I'm Paula, and I randomly opened the stack to self-care, but I went, no, I'm good at that. So, so I put it aside and looked at something that really resonated for the moment, and I have beautiful sadness. So today's the 5th anniversary of my mother's passing, and normally I think of her birthday, but it's 5 years, and it's also Lunar New Year. And in leading up to today, I've been listening to another great podcast by Anderson Cooper called All There Is, about grief. And so much of it is about the reality of living with loss, if that's the word, more of a transition. And as we sit here in the beginning of the Lunar New Year, it's a transition time. There's an end and a beginning. And that's where I am today. And I also appreciate that was able to be in conversation with Angela earlier today about the same thing.
My name is Gail, and I picked patience because it says, how can time be your teacher? And I like to be on time. And I was late. So I'm looking at this patience card and feeling that's what I need.
Her being late might be our fault. I also picked patience because a lot of the time I feel like I have to have a lot figured out, and having patience kind of makes me feel like I don't have to have it all figured out yet. Like I'm 13. So I just like sit back and enjoy like the present and stop worrying about the future and the past.
I'm Kim, and I also chose self-care, and the sort of operative part of the question is, what can you do today to nurture love for yourself? I was in 2 car accidents at the end of last year, and for whatever reason, I just have not been able to like focus on today. I will do physical therapy. And I've just been avoiding it. And if I can just orient to doing it today rather than, oh, I need like 4 dates scheduled out to do this, and just start with today.
Hi, my name's Simone. I picked the card wholeness because I felt a lot of the time that wholeness meant adding more people to my life and putting more and more people around me, but I'm starting to figure out that wholeness is more of a personal and individual experience that you can learn how to do by yourself.
Hello, my name is Peter. I chose gentleness, and I think this is, on the one hand, I think it's appropriate for the theme of empathy and democracy, because in the prompt, it's being kind to others. And I think that's really central to empathy, and certainly has a connection to democracy, is understanding others, withholding judgment from others, being gentle with others and their views. And for me personally, the prompt says being kind to yourself. This is something I struggle with. I consider myself very empathetic and accepting of others, and sometimes I hold myself to a very different standard, and maybe others here as well do the same thing. And so the message for me is I need to be gentle with myself, or more gentle. Thanks.
I knew I would regret doing this with you guys. Regret blooming. Why you do this to me?
I don't think it's one of the cards.
I'm going to do an Alex, and I'm going to draw my own card. So I was going through the cards, and the first thing I thought of was that all of these things are what I want for the people that I'm holding. Like every one of these cards is what I want for them. But if you go back and you listen, I think, to the podcast about the podcast, the first podcast, I talk about, we talk about like, well, what were you expecting? Or I forget what exactly the prompt was, but I remember feeling like I was a little disappointed because we hadn't solved the world's problems in that first hour and a half. Like, I don't know what I thought was going to happen, but I really thought, it was all going to come together and we were going to have the world's problem solved. And so for me, kind of going through this, the last card is patience. And I think it would have been easy for me to pick that, because I think that's when there's a problem, I want to rush in and solve the problem. I want to take care of it. I want to take care of the people that I'm holding. And today, not more than an hour and a half ago, I was in a situation where I wanted to run into that burning building, and I wanted to save the people in it, and I wanted to fix everything that was happening. But that wasn't working. And I had to stop for a moment and show gentleness for that person and for myself. And in that moment, that the energy of all of that just completely shifted. And I know what the lesson is for that situation, but this is where the work begins for us here, is how do we make that bigger? How do we bring that to the world? So I'll stop there.
And this was just on the tea round. We've got 2 more rounds to go here, people. So I want to just invite you now to enjoy the onigiri. There's 2 kinds that you had a choice to choose from. There's a salmon and there's a plum. And if you didn't pick one, there's still time, or you can just continue to drink your tea. And again, the invitation is, I think Angela's going to share a little bit about where onigiri comes from. This has been around for a long time, I'll just say. And so as you pick it up, everything from feeling the weight of it, the smell of it, see if you can just almost imagine the ocean. And when you're ready, go ahead and taste and just feel it in your mouth, your throat, if you can feel it moving through your body. So part of the inspiration for getting out of the auditorium and on the stage and into this space was really to kind of create this like level playing field. And I really thought, I love to eat, so I was like, let's just bring some people and food together and just really hold space. And then I went onto Angela's website, Go Compassion, and we had just went with her, my daughters and my wife. We just went down to Tijuana with her to support a sanctuary that Angela has been supporting. And literally the world is at our border. People from Ukraine to Haiti to Venezuela. And it was just powerful to sort of this current former Zen priest supporting this sanctuary founded by a Christian pastor that's holding space from literally people around the world. This was sort of like compassion upon compassion upon compassion. And so on Angela's website, it says sometimes the best meditation begins with a simple meal and drink. And so just this act of taking time to drink some tea, a time to appreciate the persons and people who prepared, like someone grew this rice, someone fished that salmon, someone grew the plum, someone pressed the seaweed, someone wrapped it, someone set it up, someone created this moment in this evening for us to sit at this table. That's gratitude. And so the next space, we will now turn it over to Alex and Angela. Thank you.
So what you're enjoying in the onigiri is a 2,000-year-old tradition, actually. This, during the Yayoi period, I think, 200 BC, archaeologists found rice wrapped in bamboo leaves. And it was a kind of food that was portable, and it used to be that the sort of elite in Japan during the Edo period would give to their servants this meal, so to speak. It made sense. It was filling, it was healthy because the ume, the pickle, is something that can settle your stomach. If you've got an upset stomach, it's kind of a household medicine, you know. Take one of those little umes, suck on it, and your stomach will settle down. But then what happened was it evolved into kind of a gift that would be given. So this would be wrapped in different ways, and the little triangle shape came about from when people would go traveling and they would pray for protection on their journey. And so, you know, Mount Fuji is a big symbol, and it kind of mimics a mountain, right? That's the little triangle. But it comes in all kinds of shapes, and it is very nourishing, and it's accessible. So we're moving into another space, aren't we, Alex? And I think you were going to open us up with a query.
Certainly. First of all, I want to thank Omar and Belinda for the invitation. If you ever go to lunch with Omar, you never know what's going to happen.
Regret. You know, all kinds of things are possible.
Not the first time. Certainly not regret. In this case, having witnessed the podcast, I attended the second one. I was struck by just the deep commitment to holding a space that was open to what wanted to emerge with really clear intentions on honoring that each one of us has something we bring toward living into greater empathy, living into this idea, experiment of democracy. And so, in planning for this, having a conversation with Omar, Belinda, Jim, and Angela, and Sophia, one of the questions I asked first is, how do you define spaceholder? So I'd like to begin by asking those of you around this beautiful table, how many of you before this event would self-identify as a spaceholder? I just want to see your hands. You'd self-identify. Somebody asks you who you are, and you're going to say, I'm a spaceholder. So for those of you that happen to be listening, you get the audio, you can't see the visual. When I said, how many identify? Hands went up. When I said, how many, when just asked who you are, would identify, the hands all went down. And that makes a lot of sense, because in our humanity, we often identify by whatever is our primary role or responsibility. Angela, Zen Buddhist priest, a path she's walked and dedicated her life for many years. She might say meditator. I'd love to hear from a couple of you, and I know there are mics. How do you typically identify? When you're asked, who are you?
Down there in the corner, and there's one extra here. Could you repeat that?
How do you identify yourself when someone asks, who are you, beyond your name?
I don't think people use the word warrior, but I think that's sort of part of the persona, a little bit. An activist, somebody who advocates for change, is how I identify typically. But I've heard a definition of spaceholder earlier today that I thought was completely resonant and important, you know, to understand where you are in terms of the whole space of change. But I guess I've always been one who's been activating for it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Paula. Anyone else? Welcome. And for those that are just joining us, feel free to get some nourishment.
Is this on? Am I in? Okay. I identify as a mother. That is definitely, for me, first and foremost, I mean, I have a precious life that I brought into the world that didn't bring itself into the world, and it's a great responsibility. So I care about the world that this life is in, you know, and the experience that they're going to have and others like him. So, and mother doesn't have to be like a physical thing either. We can mother each other, we can father each other, but yeah, I identify as a mother.
Thank you.
That's an interesting question. I would say a valorizer of marginalized perspective, yeah, and of giving voice to those who are otherwise left out.
Thank you. We have time for maybe one or two more. How do you identify yourself beyond your name?
I think as a caregiver, caregiver for my husband, my kids, my family, my friends, other people in the world. Used to be my parents, but also I feel like also lately or in the last couple of years, more of a caregiver also for my ancestors as well. So yeah, that's probably how I describe myself.
Thank you. We have one more here.
I usually say organizer, you know, of my people, of my community.
All right, thank you. So we're going to do a reflection exercise, but I'll let you know now, I'm going to challenge each of you to consider consciously adding Spaceholder to your identity. We have many aspects of our identities, and they're complex. But part of what we're experiencing in democracy right now is a space where our humanity becomes condensed to these one-dimensional labels that can be quickly judged, where projections are put on someone that may or may not be true. And what's missing is the space between. A space to, as we've heard tonight, pause, to notice, to reflect, to listen to ourselves. Maybe it's a narrative that doesn't serve us any longer. Maybe it's an awareness of something we're needing that we haven't given to ourselves. Maybe it's an energy that we bring to the world in an effort to get things done that we can lay down and rest. Maybe it's time to just acknowledge I have time to be where I am in this season of my life. And regardless of what society says, here is where I need to be. This space is a space that really allows us to bring a quality of attention. And I love the quote by Anne Truitt. She says, the opposite of inattention is love. It's the honoring of others in a way that grants them their own autonomy and allows for mutual discovery. We have that opportunity in each exchange, whether we're teacher or organizer, caregiver, student, it doesn't matter. So I'm going to invite you, we'll take a moment in silence to pick up the half sheet in front of your plate entitled Reimagine Holding Space, and get some reflection questions. part of the power of language is defining it for ourselves. And so the first question is, how would you define holding space for yourself? Why, if you're a space holder, why have you integrated space holding? Or why might you integrate a conscious practice of space holding? And with whom would you hold that space? What do you need to sustain yourself and hold space with empathy amidst the challenges facing our democracy? And if more individuals practiced holding space, what do you imagine would be possible? So these questions are merely an invitation for you to notice which one speaks to you. Maybe there's a couple. And even as you drink your tea or take a bite of your onigiri, listen in for the answer that's wanting to emerge now. Not the right answer, what sounds good to someone else, but what's true for you from a place of illumination and discovery in this moment. And then after we take just a couple of minutes to be with the questions and live with them for a moment, we'll have an opportunity to share. Any questions? All right. For those of you online who don't see the questions in front of you, I'm going to repeat them. How would you define holding space? Imagine would be possible. All right. So we have a few minutes just to share any insights that emerged. I see that smile. Curious as to what's behind it. But any insights that emerged as you reflected on the questions?
I feel like I'm being called on in law school. So it's interesting to me because this is a concept that I'm not familiar with prior to being here today. So I got to make up what I think it means because I didn't have a preconceived notion from any other information that I had. So I have to confess my answer doesn't really work with the other questions. So it's probably not the more commonly understood definition of it, but I wrote down, it's a right to be recognized and respected for who you are, independent of perceived accomplishments or status. So, and I thought of an expression that I remember hearing throughout my life, don't just sit there taking up space, which is kind of a put down of someone who is perceived to not be carrying their weight, and it seemed to me when thinking about this concept that that's a judgmental statement that this concept that I defined is trying to counteract. And I think part of the reason I came to this understanding is sort of there's a humanist view that every person has value for who they are, and it's not, it doesn't depend on what you've accomplished or what you've done. And so that's what I wanted the definition to mean, I guess, even though it might not be exactly the definition that others may be coming up with.
And I love that you went to what's true for you. Recognizing that perspective of looking at again, bringing a new way of framing your thinking, which is exactly what you did. Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else? An insight that emerged as you work with one of the questions?
Can I go? This is like facilitator's prerogative. So one of my favorite quotes is this Chinese American geographer, Yifu Tuan, and he said, "Place is security, space is freedom. We cling to the former and long for the latter." And so I love this idea because people talk about placemaking, and I like the idea of space making. And if space is freedom, then as a space holder, then I'm holding space for freedom. Like I'm a holder of freedom.
Mm. I love that. Anyone else? An insight that emerged for you? Dorsey. I saw eyebrows go up and then she put her teacup down. And so now she's reaching for a mic. I'm assuming that's a sharing, indication of sharing.
Hello, everyone. First of all, I want to say it's nice to see your beautiful faces. Thank you for coming out on a Saturday. I did, if more individuals practice holding space, what do you imagine would be possible? And I said a collective society that's harmonious, because in this nation, we're so separated. But if we come together and we actually have similar happenings in our lives. So once we share that, we can be a collective like this here. This is council. So.
Thank you.
Hi. I appreciate the 4 questions, but I feel like I cannot examine or investigate questions 2, 3, or 4 if I don't understand, if I cannot answer, question 1. And I'm new to this concept of holding space with Angela and Alex, and for me, I'm still learning this. I guess I'm working on, I'm leaning in curiosity and wonder, and with this very investigative spirit of what really, Alex, is it to hold space. And I think for me, it's to protect the sanctuary. And it's something I'm working on. I'm not there yet, but it's such a sacred space to hold space. It's very sacred. So one must really be anchored in an intention to preserve and protect the sanctity of the space and protect the sanctuary at all cost. Yeah.
Thank you. It's often said you cannot give what you do not have. And for many of us, whether it's our work, preoccupation, responsibilities with our families, whatever absorbs our time, especially now that algorithms are being very strategic in how to capture our time, if we are to honor each other's humanity, I'm hearing these insights that each of you are speaking to yourself as possible a next step to do that. It's not that we fix the world overnight, as Jim spoke to earlier, or that This circle of nourishment solves problems that we all see and face. But that if we can be present in this moment to what's the next thing for me, to bring kindness, to bring healing, maybe more patience, some wholeness, a little self-care. Each of those values that reflected back in the Garden of Healing cards moves us to creating space for another and understanding they have needs, that they may need just a moment to pause and consider for themselves. Once you have a concept like this that you're thinking about, it really becomes more centered in our awareness when we can embody it. And so I'm going to turn this over to Angela to walk us through some embodied reflections.
Okay, so everyone has a little square of paper and a colored pen, I hope, that will show up on your paper.
Post-its should be around.
Yeah. All right, so just let's take one breath together. So inhale and exhale completely. One more time, think about empathy, taking it in. Inhale, and put that empathy into the world with your exhale. On your little square of paper, can you just write down one word that defines empathy from where you are? Just one word. When you're done, you can raise your paper and I'm going to come get it. Practice. Roots. I need my glasses. Understanding. All right, what else do we have here? Feel. Feel. All right. Compassion.
Yeah, they're coming in.
They're coming in, that's good. Listening. Listening. Thank you. Oh, thank you for collecting them. Feel. Okay. So what we're beginning to see here, listening, is that we have this common understanding, others. Okay, honesty. Go ahead, Omar, you can put up. What you begin to see is that there are some similarities here. The compassion, the listening, feeling, being seen, awareness, kindness, presence, compassion again. So we do have a sense of what empathy is. Now I'm going to invite you all to stand up for a minute. Feels good after sitting for a while, huh? All right, and I'd like you to, if you need to hold on to your chair for balance too, you can. Close your eyes for a minute and recall a time when you received empathy. Recall a time when you received empathy. What did that feel like? People can just say, what did empathy feel like? Love.
Nurturing.
Nurturing.
Warmth.
Warmth.
Non-judgment.
Non-judgment.
Forgiveness.
Sorry, come again?
Cared for.
cared for.
I felt seen.
Felt seen.
Generosity.
Generosity. Surprising. Welcoming. You see all of these things that you just named, and anybody have anything different than what we've heard?
Dignity.
Dignity. Okay. Relief. Relief. So I just want to suggest to you that these words that you just all shared into our circle, these are the gifts of empathy. These are the gifts of empathy. Now, where in your body would you locate the feeling that you named? Just put your hand on that part of your body. Some have on their hearts, some have on their belly, some have in the center of their chest, some are hugging themselves. Okay, this is how it manifests. Remember this feeling as you enter spaces in our democracy that invites deliberation these days. Many of us are invited into these spaces and they're fraught at the moment. Can you remember this part of your body, and can you recall the gifts of empathy and bring those gifts to these conversations, discussions, debates, disagreements? Because if you can do that, you will, without even a conscious intention, at times find yourself bringing something that may be missing, so that we can arrive at a place where we are able to feel into. Remember the word, the etymology of the word empathy? It's a Greek word. In, pathos, feeling. We are in feeling with ourselves and with others. This is where empathy may fit into our notion or encounter with democracy. Okay, let's try one more physical thing. Stagger yourselves so you don't hit each other. There's a wonderful movement that you can share when you're really stressed and you really just need to release all the tension that you may be gathering in one of those conversations that I mentioned earlier. And what I'm inviting you to do is take your hands, palms faced up on both sides of your body, and inhale, bringing palms together above your head. Clasp your fingers, turn your entwined fingers toward heaven, and then exhale slowly, slowly, slowly as your hands come down. And if you're really feeling the stress, like in your back, you can bend all the way forward and just hang there for a minute. And then take a regular breath in and come up, and exhale as you are standing again. You do that 3 times, it will help you to reset. It will help you to reset. And the stretch feels so good. And the acknowledgement of the heavens feels so right. And the exhale, this is the magic, because there's a reason why that movie was called Waiting to Exhale. Something very, very interesting happens to the energy and to your body when you exhale. When you let go at the end of this life, you are not going to take your last inhale. You are going to exhale and exit. That's how it works. Okay. All right. let's come back together and do one last imagination since we were talking about reimagining. And then I'm going to turn it back to Belinda and Omar. So here's the question, and you can just carry it with you as our gift to you. Where does empathy fit into your vision of democracy? We're not going to spend the rest of the little time, precious time we have answering that question, but it's a question we ask you to carry. And maybe it'll be a conversation over tea or coffee on another day. Thank you so much for your time and for being here. I'm turning it back to Belinda and Omar.
Thank you, Angela and Alex. I'm just noticing how my body is feeling in this moment, and even just that hand that gives so much is like, oh, we're gonna exhale and let go. So just, taking a moment here to pause again and just notice how you're feeling right now around all of the things and the people that you're holding in your life. And as we journey to our final course, which is the mochi, which is one of the treats in my tradition, the Taiwan. We eat a lot of mochi around this time of year. So for those of you that are excited to experience the mochi, just welcoming this sense of touch. For those of you that are choosing to enjoy the mochi, you can grab one from the buffet line and just feel the weight of the mochi and just the texture of it, and just really being with the sensory experience that Angela took us through. Like, what can you uncover about this space with the mochi? What do you notice in this moment?
And there's a reason why in many Asian cultures you have mochi at the New Year, because it's kind of sticky. And so good health, prosperity, abundance, it'll come and stay with you through the year that's ahead, right? So enjoy your mochi.
So just really receiving that, all the goodness that you want to receive. Just imagining it going into your body and your spirit. Just taking a moment to be with that. And if you're choosing to just be with your tea, that's okay too. Just continue to savor that fragrant tea and the feeling of the tea. It's so lovely to be around this circle, just nourishing each other and ourselves in the moment. It's like bringing me a lot of joy to just watch everyone enjoying their mochi and their tea. One of the things that Jim, Omar and I were talking about in preparation for this time was, what does it feel like to be spaceholders? And interestingly enough, a lot of the things that we shared with each other was, it's hard. It feels heavy, it's exhausting, it takes a lot of energy. And we really wanted to hold the reality of that energy in creating the space today. How can we receive support for the realness of that journey that we're on right now? We all chose to be humans at this time when it's like there's a lot going on. It's like, wow, why did my soul pick that this time? There's work to be done. And so how can we take a breath even in that heaviness to really feel the lightness of being held? And, we really thought about that through the experience of the space. And really the silence that is part of this participant in this space as well. So we're just gonna take a moment to really digest this time, like really feeling into how does it feel for you now as someone that is taking care of others and yourself? What do you notice yourself. What do you notice in how you're being nourished or what you're receiving, in all the subtle ways. And we're just gonna go around the circle. We'll go the opposite direction this time to just say, what is one thing we want to remember as we go back and we live our lives. It could be the same word that you started with, or it could be another word that's emerging from what you've experienced today, just to remember. A lot of the work that we do at Gratitude Blooming is so simple, but it's so hard, is just how do we remember what nature is constantly reminding us of, and a lot of it is slowing down to notice what's present. So I'm going to put Omar on the spot to start this train. So just one thing you want to remember for yourself today based on what you received.
I'm really appreciating the roses that welcome me and just the sense of the journey through the roses to be here.
I think what I want to take back is in that question, how would you define holding space? Because I think it's much different. My definition now is much different than before in that it's not just holding people, but it's holding people as they are. For whatever reason, they are the way that they are. They are that way for a reason. And caring for them and holding space for them means holding space for who they are in this moment. The other part is the difficult part, which is being okay with it.
I'd like to take shared understanding with me. The Post-it note exercise was actually really powerful in that, at least around this table, we have a shared understanding of empathy. I wasn't expecting so many commonalities in terms of words, and I'll be taking that with me after tonight.
I really focused on the connectivity of everything that we've talked about today, because we're a room full of strangers, and we've all maybe simultaneously, maybe slowly found a way to connect and gain a deeper and more complex understanding of ourselves and each other. And I think that's a really amazing gift.
I am taking with me the realization of how much of a gift it can be to enable people to exhale by inviting them in, by calling for people to be in spaces where they wouldn't be otherwise. And that it's both a physical thing as well as sort of an emotional exhale.
One thing I'd like to remember is the food, because, well, one, it was really good, but two, also it's crazy that it was like 1,000 years ago this food was being made. 2,000, my bad. And like, I know it seems hard, like where we are in this world, but some of the things that are just like happening in this room, our ancestors 2,000 years ago, like wouldn't even dreamed of any of this happening. Just having a conversation with like the person next to you would have been considered crazy then. So I'm grateful for that.
Well, I want to remember the grace and beauty of the people in the space.
I feel like I'm today coming at a new understanding of that sense of what a space holder is. And it feels a little bit of an epiphany because I wrote down what I did think and then how I'm thinking of it now. So I was thinking of holding space as patiently listening and allowing, of mentoring, creating room for someone else is how I've been thinking of it. but I'm seeing it in a new way, like, reflecting on the dimensionality of relationships and perspectives and recollection and how you might look at something that happened in a different way many years later. And I'll just briefly explain it. Angela and I had a conversation earlier today about my mother, who's a political figure and took a vote on a very controversial position for civil rights, but lost her re-election because of that. And the issue lost, but decades later became something that changed in society. So Angela said she was holding space. And I had never thought of it quite that way. People think of her as trying and not succeeding, but Angela said she held space. And so I see it now as that it's like a way of creating opportunity.
I was thinking about what Alex said earlier, when she asked everybody about whether they define themselves as a space holder. And I don't think you usually define yourself as that. Usually you are chosen as that. And, my family actually calls me the expediter. So, I have that burden. And I think what I'm taking is that, like, I need somebody to hold space for me. But the kernel in that is that you have to really be a space holder, like in the true, with that empathy, and in order to motivate that, inspire that in others to step up. And so, that's my lesson, is to be a model space holder.
The expediter.
Coming out.
I just think of the word community, and I just look around, and one might say it's a table full of strangers, but at the same time, I feel like we all really know each other in some way, and the importance of community and nurturing it and building it. I might see you out someday and just know we're each other's people and that we care and we're doing our version of contributing to making this world a better place in some way, shape, or form. And it's a beautiful thing. So my community just grew tonight, and I'm really happy to be here and meet you all.
Do you guys know that song by REM, Losing My Religion? I've been kind of losing my compassion, and I'm looking over Jim's left shoulder, and I'm forced to confront what compassion is, So, I think I live on San Pedro and 4th, where I'm confronted every day with the chaos and the strife and the unpredictability of the homeless community. But thank you for today, because it reminded me that even if you're hanging on by a tattered and torn piece of thread, you're still connected to your compassion. So what I go away with today is really, look at these squares right here. I'm forced to really examine compassion and revisit it, and hopefully re-energize my capacity for compassion and the importance of compassion in our community and the role it plays in preserving democracy. And I'm grateful to be here today, and I learned a lot. Thank you.
So I've been really excited about this coming up, because I got this brilliant opportunity to teach in a social justice program. And I have been using the concept of space holding as the cornerstone in my classroom. And it's not easy. And I think the thing that resonated with me the most was something that Jim said right at the beginning, where you said I was going to rush into that burning building and save them, but then I stopped. And that's how I feel every day. I have to let them enter the space and learn and fall and crash and burn and open their minds in a way. And I just have to let them catch a little bit, not all of it. And so it's nice to know that I am not alone.
Hi, everyone. I'm so grateful to be here. It's been lovely. I think one thing I will be remembering, I just got to keep it real. It was super challenging to see the word empathy and democracy together. It was very challenging for me. And I think what I'm recognizing in both my own pondering of these questions and hearing everyone's wisdom being elicited here is that perhaps there is a magic in holding space where what I'm actually doing is finding the gratitude and the healing in the challenge. And really allowing the sacredness of challenge. Yeah.
But I think that's what I want to carry with me is sort of the love I'm feeling here, and can I carry that out in the world and the things that I do every day.
Yeah, my my thinking is actually very similar to the last two about empathy, thinking about empathy in connection with who are you empathizing with. And I think probably most of us find it easier to be empathetic with people who we're close to or that we feel like we have a lot in common with. Being able to be empathetic to people who are very different than us, who have very different views, is more challenging, but perhaps the only way for empathy to be returned is to show it. And so that's what I'll take with me.
My beautiful reminder today regarding holding space is that a beautiful gift is community, right? So when we create spaces to hold for community and we show up, we are in community, like tonight in person. Or if we choose to receive and show up somewhere, you get to be in community. And my day has been a beautiful experience of that with my soul siblings today, and being in communion with them for hours on end is just a blessing and a gift and such good medicine. So I think it's just a reminder to show up, to be held and receive, because that's a gift. And if I'm feeling burnt out or it's heavy, to hold space, a reminder of why we do it, which is to be in community with others. And I think a lot of times we craft and curate spaces we need as space holders, because I don't find it anywhere else. Guess I got to create it myself, which tonight is a beautiful reflection of. So yeah, we get to be together, and that's just a big gift of showing up and getting out of the house, putting on clothes, driving through LA traffic. I almost didn't make it, but I did.
I just want to thank the space holders for this gathering and for this day, and for my soul siblings who we've held space together throughout this day. And one thing that I'm really sitting with is that spiritually, politically, in my day-to-day, I believe in holding space for folks, and I hold space for them. But personally, similar to what other folks have said, it's really difficult to practice allowing folks to hold space for you when you're so used to holding space. And I'm really just internalizing this sense of empathy as worthiness to have food, nourishing food from beautiful cultures, to have and feel worthiness of having flowers adorn your feet and your table, and to feel worthy to be around folks you feel close to and folks who you don't know, and spending time. And I think it reminds me that we do treat each other so disposably, and that's the opposite of empathy, and the opposite of holding space is we want to make things go so fast that we lose or miss or intentionally put others aside and create the other so that we can justify it. And so I'm really just sitting with this sense of what does the next step to empathy feel like for myself personally, but also in our actions. When we are challenged, when we are at capacity, how do we summon and imbibe this energy even in that most challenging place that you may feel dehumanized? How do we still, through faith and through practice, emanate empathy in actions?
Thanks, everyone. The thing I've been reflecting on is in my day-to-day, we always talk about filling space, fill that space. What's in that space? So now holding space, the thing I'm reflecting on is the question between what does it look like to hold space instead of fill it? And I definitely don't have an answer.
Hey y'all. So my continued practice coming from this will be to do it scared. Because me speaking right now, scary. And that's me showing up for myself though. Like I know I need to share my voice amongst my community, and it's just a reminder for me to know that if I don't serve myself, I can't serve others. So to continue to do it scared, and I'm gonna come out better at the end. So thank y'all for hearing me.
I think probably the exercise that had the most impact on me, because we were talking about holding space and making others feel seen and making others feel like they're in the room. When you actually ask us to remember a space of empathy, and when someone held it for you, the memory of it, a year or two later, it's sort of the warmth that you get from it when you don't think that you've gotten it. And the idea of sort of creating that for somebody else, even if it's just a small moment, because the memories that I had were very small. They weren't huge moments. It was just like little things. And I was like, oh, I see you. So I think that's what I'm going to carry, is the idea of holding space and trying to make people feel seen, so that even if it carries a year or two later, 2 years later, whatever, that feeling of warmth hopefully will go to other people. And that's what I'm going to take for today.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I think what's really been on my mind is the honesty that we have to have with ourselves when it comes to addressing and accounting what it is that we need. Oftentimes, caregivers or space holders, community organizers are very quick to brush off what it is that they need. And Alex, you said earlier, we can't give what we don't have. And so I think what I want to take with me is that I need to really address within myself what it is that I need in order to feel whole, so that I can show up and be my fullest self in the work that I do, in the communities that I serve, to the people that I love in my family, and be able to be honest with what it is that I need and what it is that I don't need, and actively choosing to engage with that reality.
Yeah, I think for me, just the taking away the permission to have Spaceholder be part of my identity. Thank you so much, Alex, for that. Yeah, that's okay. It's really important. And then also too, I know the importance of empathy in creating space for myself, even though I don't do it very often, and for others. But I feel like there's an invitation to explore in my body and my heart and my mind how important empathy is for democracy and cosmically, and what that actually looks like. I feel like there's such an invitation for me coming out of this.
Yeah, I think I'm sitting with like the art of gathering, the ways we gather, how we gather, and the hospitality that allows us to show up as we are, that is required and necessary. Just to create a space for like that quality of attention. So yeah, that was a phrase that really caught my attention is the quality of our attention, how we're showing up. And the spaces we create affect that internally and externally and all the things that make up a space, right, in a gathering. So I'm just sitting with that.
So I know I didn't have a chance to share what my identity is earlier, but I'd like to share that right now, is that I identify myself as a provider. As I see myself as provider every single day, all I think about is providing for my children, my mom, my brother who lives with me. What happens though is that when you're a provider, you're always constantly thinking of others, but what happens is that you forget who you are as a person. And so creating a space for myself, it gives me a chance and an opportunity to rediscover who I am and that I can be present in the best form possible, especially as a mother. You know, one thing that I want to do this in 2024, especially today is Lunar New Year, is that I want to share more kindness and compassion. And for today's meeting, you know, the fact that we're talking about empathy, kindness, compassion, and empathy is so contagious. And this world definitely needs more people like us who shares kindness, compassion, and empathy, because oftentimes we're, you know, when we're pushing our children to go to college, go to school, is so they can earn money. But then when we're talking about just money, is that really what's going to make them happy? So for me, what I take from today's gathering is to share and be a role model of being kind, compassionate, and showing empathy.
So I wrote a little poem. We are here, we are breathing, we have gifts to give each other and to this world.
So my identity is one of organizer and leader, but not leader in like a grandiose sense, just we have this thing and you're in charge of making sure it happens kind of thing. So when I look at the idea of holding space, it's more like a means to an end. You know, when you have a lot of people in a room and if you don't hold space for everyone, you're going to have conflict and opposition, and you're not all going to row in the same direction. So I this is very calculating, it sounds like, but this is kind of who I am. And I don't think about it. And holding space for myself is winning, meeting these goals. And I hadn't really thought of it so succinctly until just this moment. So thank you for that, everyone.
Oh, I'm taking away an embodied reminder. When Belinda asked us to extend our hand, the hand that holds, what we hold in the world, and then to put our other hand underneath to provide support. At that moment, as someone who holds space all day long for others, consciously, I realized I need to identify supports, not when I need them, before. And so now I just have that embodied awareness. I'm taking that away. And all of your beautiful faces, when I look at these cards now, the Garden of Healing, I'll think of you. It's really beautiful.
I think what I'm taking away is something that I call flow, which came from all of you contributing what you did, your energy and I was watching the bodies as we did the movement piece too. And I just feel that in this moment, I'm aware that this is part of a flow that is happening in our universe. And, you know, we're a new kind of infection. We're going to infect the world with empathy and kindness and caring and compassion and all those words that made their way up there because, you know, it's a condition that we all need. It really is. So thank you so much for coming and filling this table. And thank you for the flowers. Thank you for making space for us, Jim, here. It was just really beautiful. I feel the ancestors here. All those people who showed up to be evacuated and held space for when the moment was right.
The words that are coming up in this moment are savoring together. My first job out of college was being a classroom teacher in elementary school, urban public schools. And I thought holding space was just, you got to have the agenda, you got to facilitate, and you're going all day long, 9 to 5. And I've started to realize that it's a state of being, and it's a way of just being in the moment. And so I just really felt that so strongly today. It's like there was so much silence and so much just nourishment in the unsaid and in the feeling of it. And so I'm just really grateful for all of you for co-creating that space. And it feels like we did the podcast together, you know, all 40 of us, which is incredible. So thank you all so much. And before I pass it off to Omar, I just want to let you all know that whatever you see on the table that felt like it was supporting you, feel free to, you know, take it home. The cedar from Mount Shasta, the rose petals, the card deck, these are all reminders for you to be able to hold space for yourself in the moment.
And just as we close, I want to bring into the room our third partner, Arlene Kim Suda, who is an artist in the Bay Area who did the illustrations. And they were born 7 years ago in a practice she called 100 Days of Blooming Love. And what she wanted to do was move kind of beyond the inspiration of art and really into the discipline of noticing. And so by illustrating one plant each day for 100 days, the plants began to speak to her. And so the words that you see here are the words from the plant that you see. And so when you first came into the space, you saw the 3 reflection booths. And there was a line in a poem that I wrote, imagine flowers and voting booths. And I was like, well, I can create that, right? And so we did. We created these reflection booths with these found objects and with these plants. And we created that sacred space, right? Like we took, in many ways, the voting booth is the altar of our democracy, right? It is where we practice sort of our democracy. And this, as we're closing, I'm looking at this word holding space for the Spaceholder. Holding is a practice. And practice is anything that disrupts our habits, right? And so this idea of disrupting our habits of filling things up, right? What is the habit of creating space, right? The habit of creating freedom. And Belinda and I are obviously gratitude geeks. Like we've been like deep into the practice of gratitude. We have launched multiple companies, apps, technologies, held numerous spaces. And I think one thing that I'll just say is that gratitude serves you most is when you don't need it. Right? When you practice gratitude when you don't need it, it shows up for you when you do. And it's that small practice every day of pausing to notice something good. And what I would say now is that my definition of gratitude is that gratitude is really the practice of noticing with the heart. The heart holds space for what the mind cannot. And so just appreciate you being here, showing the courage to share your hearts with us tonight. And this is the fundamental reason that I think Belinda and I have gone hard on gratitude, is that gratitude is a social emotion. That gratitude is inherently relational. Gratitude is fundamentally a reminder that we're part of something bigger than ourselves. So thank you for creating that space tonight.
Thank you. And thank you to our friends at Gratitude Blooming. Thank you all for coming here tonight. I do want to express some gratitude to Sophia, who holds all of this, who holds all of us and holds space for us, and was here early, getting everything set up, getting the table set up, dressing the tables, like literally everything. So thank you, Sophia. Have we solved the world's problems yet? To that end, I don't know if we can ever solve the world's problems. But if we solve our world's problems, what we can control, what the lives that we connect with, maybe that's the ripple effect that actually does change the world. So thank you all for being here tonight. Know that you are supported and you're held in our hands and our hearts.